the show, and again I've got Adam Spagnolo on the show. Adam, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Michael.
It's so exciting. The elections are coming up for the Osborne ward, and you're back on going for council once again. The reason I find it exciting is you actually come to the table with you recognise problems, that you don't just say here's a problem, you actually come to the table with solutions.
Yes.
And recognising why the things aren't being dealt with. And one of the areas, and we've had a little bit of feedback, and I know you have, the industrial areas, they always seem to get forgotten, and I always look and go, and obviously as a business person, go, I'm not quite sure why that happens.
Yeah. Look, it's the forgotten son, I guess you could say, which is very unfortunate. Look, the industrial and commercial areas of the city of Stirling are really the bloodline. They are the backbone, and it's important that we look after them, because we don't want our industries leaving and going off to other councils, because that's going to cut back our rate revenue. So I think one of the biggest problems that we've had in the industrial area, particularly in Osborne Park, is the capacity of the stormwater drainage system.
Right.
Now, look, this was built some years ago. It has been upgraded slightly over time, but it still isn't sufficient. Over time, like today, as you know, it's been raining quite a bit.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you go for a drive in some of the streets in that industrial area, you'll find that there's been a lot of flooding. And, you know, some of the premises actually get water going into their properties. And that's not a good thing. Now, it's unfortunate that it happens, but it needs to be upgraded. I'm hoping that after the October election, I can convince the engineers to come with me down there, have a meeting with a lot of the business proprietors out there, find out exactly where the problems are and see how we can best address them.
It seems to me that, I mean, it's been there for a while, you've recognised it, and you actually want to do something about it. The question, I suppose, I don't want to be too controversial, but my question is, why don't the council at the moment do something about it? Why does it seem that they don't go down there and just do what you want to do?
Look, I think it becomes political, and like yourself, I don't want to become controversial about it, but look, we've got to be realistic, you've got to be pragmatic about the situation, and the position is simply this. I guess it is, and I'm not saying that this is what they do, but sometimes it does happen in this way.
Yeah.
It is more, if you like, economically viable from a voting point of view to go over here where there's 1,000 houses, put some playground equipment there, and hope for the best that 300 people are going to vote. Rather than go over here and spend probably twice as much money for less return. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's what happens, but, you know, people can read between the lines.
Yeah, I mean, for council, you know, and it does get tough for council in this instance. And I think one of the things that I've recognised when I've had worked in industrial areas with our factory units, and one thing that came to a shock, I wasn't actually registered to vote, Adam.
I think a lot of business proprietors probably don't realise that they can vote. And look, it's like anything. If the local authority knows that there is interest, well then they will act.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one way people can show that they have interest is by actually registering, either as a company or as an individual, to vote with the City of Stirling. Not so much with the City of Stirling, but to be on the roll.
Yeah.
And then when the Electoral Commission of Western Australia runs the election, obviously they can see that that particular person or company has nominees on the electoral roll and of course are eligible to vote.
What's the best way? So someone watching it now or listening to it, and they go, oh, I didn't realise I could do that. What's the best way for them to actually get on the roll?
Okay. When the election is about to start, there is, like, if you like, a grace period where the electoral roll is actually open to the public. I think it's in August for the 30 days or 31 days. Anyway, for the month of August, September is 30 days, it must be 31. But look, for the month of August, what would in effect happen is the roll is open, and there is a special form. I'm not sure whether that's still the case with computers and things now, because you may even be able to download the form. Yeah. But the idea is that if you're an individual and the property is in your name, you do have the right to vote.
Right.
Two people, let's say it's in your name and your wife's name, you and your wife can actually vote for that business in the industrial or the commercial area.
Fantastic.
Now, if it happens to be in a company name, well then the company has the right to actually nominate two people. It has two nominees. And again, it could be you and your wife. Let's say it's ABC Proprietary Limited.
Yes.
Well then it could nominate yourself and your wife as the nominees. But you need to register. And in order to do this, you need to do it in that month when the electoral roll is open. And secondly, you need to do it on the prescribed form, which, as I say, I'm not sure whether you can download it or whether it certainly would be available from the City of Stirling. That needs to be in there within that period. And when it's in there within that period, well then, of course, when they compile the roll, that will actually be placed in there.
Fantastic. That's terrific. I'm sure there's a lot of people get a lot out of that. There is one other thing, and I don't want to be too controversial, but there is one other thing why I've got you in the studio, and I know you don't shy away from things like this. This question time, now you have talked about it before, it's only 15 minutes and there's 30, 40 people turn up, and you want to extend that time to give more opportunities for people. I think it's wonderful. What's your driving force then? Why do you think?
Okay, look, in these days of honesty, transparency, accountability, respect, all of these things, people expect if they have an issue or there's something on the agenda and they want to be able to ask a question, that they should be able to do that. Now, I understand that most of the meetings probably have some 30 to 40 people in attendance.
Yeah.
Now, even if half of them wanted to ask a question, it would be unlikely that all of them would get through. Okay, there might be 3 or 4 people on the same topic and they'll say, well, look, no good repeating it.
Yeah.
But it's not the case always. I'm actually proposing that question time be extended from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. It may very well be that some attendances of ratepayers, you do get times when there only might be 3 or 4 people and no questions. That's great. But, as issues surface, people need an opportunity to be clear in their minds what the issue is about, what the council is doing about it. And so I believe the time has come for question time to be extended from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to afford all ratepayers, if they so wish, to ask questions.
I think it's excellent, and you are right in this area, this era now of people want transparency. People, they're taking a really keen interest. They suddenly realise that council plays a huge role in my personal life.
Yes.
Whether it's coming to my property values, whether it's coming to my business, and how my community is operating. It has and the role of council has just expanded so much. Yes. So I think people are recognising now that, if I've got an interest, I want to be able to go there and ask these people, for some honest direction. And, if things are tough, but at least I can ask, at least I know.
Well, I had a typical example yesterday, Michael, where I spoke to a lady and she asked me what all of these surveyors were doing around the place. Now, I must confess, I didn't know, but had I been on the council, I probably should have known. And I said, look, I really don't know. She said, well, I've rung the City of Stirling. She said, and they weren't able to tell me. She said, I was going to go to question time, but I was a bit worried because I've been there a few times before and I never get a chance to speak. I said, well, that is one of the reasons why I would like to advocate and suggest and put forward to the City of Stirling that they extend question time from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So people like this lady do get the opportunity. They're not intimidated, or they don't feel apprehensive about going there. They need to know that they can go there as a ratepayer of the City of Stirling and openly and confidently ask a question.
It's fantastic. I really do think it's fantastic. And of course, as always, because we're big supporters, people watching, they're going, hey, that sounds like me. I want to be able to have those opportunities as well. Yeah. A vote for you. How do they do it?
Okay, it's very simple. As I've mentioned before, there are 2 modes of voting. There is in-person and there's postal voting. The City of Stirling, for the last few elections, has been running the postal voting election. The election date, or the last day to vote, is on the 21st of October 2017. But people will actually receive their voting packages 3 weeks before. Now, when they receive those packages, obviously there'll be a lot of goodies in there, including a ballot paper, which is probably the most important part of it all. And there'll be some names on there of the candidates that are vying for the position. If you would like to support me, please, what you need to do is where you see my name, you just tick the box. There are no numbers or anything like that. It's actually first past the post.
Yes, I do like that actually myself.
Rather than a preferential system of voting. So whoever gets the highest votes wins, whereas with preferential, it's much different.
Yeah.
So you tick the box, you fold the ballot paper. There is a very small envelope where it's actually called the ballot envelope. Right. You put the ballot paper inside that, you seal it. Then there's a larger DL size envelope. Yeah. You put the smaller envelope in there, you seal that, and most importantly, Michael?
Make sure you sign the back.
Correct. Otherwise, do you know the reason for that? The main reason for that is because if you don't sign the back, effectively what happens is, even though you may have voted correctly, when they actually do a cross-reference between the roll and that ratepayer, if it's not signed, they cannot necessarily prove that that ratepayer actually sent that vote.
Is that the reason why?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with finding out who you voted for, because what they do is they actually open the main envelope, take out the little envelope that's already sealed, put it in the stack with all the rest, throw all these envelopes away, and then they just start opening them. So there's no way in the world that they would ever be able to find out who you voted for.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I just think it's really important, really interesting. Great having you on the show. I know
Thank
you're
you.
a busy man out there doing the rounds, already pounding the pavements
Yes.
and finding out those issues. But once again, Adam Spagnolo, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.